Mm. Today's topic that dropped in was about healthy, receptive relationships and how we can be in relationships with other people and will resist the things that they request or would need us to do, or maybe our partner resists and refuses to do for us. And the reason this seems to keep dropping is I just keep hearing my girlfriends and friends around me really, really in a struggle, and a struggle to understand why it's so difficult for their partner to show up for them where they need them to. And this resistance I've actually had to sit within myself and within relationships I've been in. It's rather deep, because many people feel this need to exercise their resistance, what they will be convinced is a compromise of themselves, or feeling that people are trying to control them, whether it is or it isn't. We all believe what we believe because that's our reality, and that's what we create. And so my question is there something that your partner is unable or unwilling to do for you that would really serve and help you? And it really tugs at your heartstrings because you feel that if they loved you, that one thing would make things so much easier. But you feel they just resist, and you feel they create more problems, and they vehemently deny you that one little thing. On the flip, I also want you to ask yourself, is there something that you resist and refuse to do as well for your partner or someone in your life? It goes both ways. And when we're so intent on not doing something, we never actually question why we're unwilling to do it. What is the root cause? Why is it so difficult? Is it because somebody is asking, and so it's kind of like an ego trick? Someone's trying to control me? Because that could be the root lying reason for not wanting to do something. It may have nothing to do with the act. It's something so simple. I know this is the easiest example, ladies. My partner won't take out the trash. I have to do it. And then you become the martyr and say how important you are about, I'm the one who has to always do this because that person won't do it. That doesn't serve you either. If you make a request and it's not taken care of, okay, the world's not going to end. And then if you are somebody who is refusing or unwilling to do something for someone that would just make their life simple, ask yourselves why. We may all have something that we are unwilling to do, but we really need to sit with the why. Why not? It's something I learned when I went to India, and I thought it was super beautiful. And I've heard this, and maybe you've heard this before. A healthy wife gives you a healthy life. A happy wife gives you a happy life. And they believe that the man comes home and he dotes on his woman after working, and he brings home the money to her. And so there's this beautiful music of relationship that is honored and revered, and just known that the man understands that when I provide something that my wife will be happy with, he doesn't assume, he knows, because he asks and there's communication, maybe even a rose bath. And so providing that for her, not only is she happier as a result of his action, it also inspires her happiness to want to give back. Because this is the thing, giving and receiving are the same, one and the same. When you give, you actually receive. In fact, the more you give, the more you receive. And when you are giving something that really lights someone up, when you're doing something in a way that makes them happy, they're going to want to do more for you to make you happy. It's infectious. When I'm happy, I just want to give to the world. I am just overjoyed, overflowing. Just like with abundance. That's why they talk about tithing. If you have a certain amount of money and you give 10 to 11% of it, or even more, believe it or not, that does come back to you. But if you're holding on to it because you're afraid, what do you think's really going to happen? Fear will win out, and then therefore it will spiral out. But it doesn't serve us to hold tight to our beliefs or any things. If we're willing to show up for one another and to serve one another in this loving act of, this is no sweat off my back and it's really going to make my partner happy. They made a request. It's not about my not wanting to do it. It's my recognizing that, number one, a lot of times, most of us, it's difficult to ask. And when we're shut down or we're refused or denied or rejected for simple little things of asking, then what do you think happens? We don't want to ask anymore. We don't feel safe. We don't feel we can trust. Because if we ask for something to be done and our partner refuses it, then we feel like they don't love me because they've refused me, rejected me, and they just don't want to do what would really be loving for me or helpful. So if you're experiencing this in your life and your partner's not showing up for you, the first question I have is there somewhere in your life that you yourself are holding on to, number one, the belief that they're not going to do it, they're unwilling to do it, and they keep rejecting you, because if you hold them in that pattern, it will continue. You're basically holding them hostage to show up the same way. But more deeply would be, are you willing to also extend what they may need? Tit for tat doesn't serve either. In relationships, if we are figuring that, well, if they're not unwilling to do that for me, then I'm going to not do that for them. It's not healthy. It's not helpful. And nobody's happy. There's lots of ways to work through these types of things. You just have to be willing to recognize them and be humble enough to maybe question the why behind the resistance, the why behind maybe why someone's showing up to you a certain way. Maybe you're really denying them to show up and be willing to do for you. Or maybe you're unwilling and not showing up for yourself as well. So I hope you glean something beautiful from that. And for today's cards, all right. Life is all about relationship, and if we are unable to show up for one another, first, if we're unable to show up for ourselves, we're not going to be able to show up for one another. We can say we love someone, but our actions will speak louder than any words. Our behavior, our body language, all of it, it speaks more than we can imagine. So if you have a certain pattern in your relationship, try changing things up. Do something new, something different. Ever notice how it's easier to fall in love and to be fallen in love with when you're busy? Love the universe. Thank goodness I'm you. That's an interesting one. So do something new, something different. Look at your relationships and where you can improve and do something different than you've been doing in the past. That's a beautiful message. We can all, always show up differently. Change things up, switch things up. Rebalance the hemispheres of the brain, because what happens is if you do something different, and especially learning, you should be learning every day, you're recalibrating your system. And we need to be growing, not being stuck and stagnant in the same patterns and behaviors. Notice how it's easier to fall in love and to be fallen in love with when you're busy, because there's no distractions. So love is in the air. Nurture it, support it, and be love. Live in love and act in love. Many blessings. Have an amazing day. I love you.